Alright guys, I got another one for you. It's a pretty creepy one. I kind of like these kind. It kind of goes down this area. Hope y'all are staying warm. First of all, we've got a huge cold front, I know, busting through the United States right now. It's going to be affecting us in the morning. I have got to finish Christmas shopping today because I do not want to be out in it tomorrow. Alright. This lady wanted to remain anonymous as far as her last name and location, but it's a good one. Name is Kelly, age 18. Happened in early 2020. The suspect is an unknown vital creature. Outcome: she was chased. It's a pretty good one. Let's see here. We'll start it out. Uh, Kelly went on a walk into the woods, which was normal for Kelly, as she would go on walks in the woods, whether it was spring or winter. And on top of the paths she would walk were right down the road from where her mom and grandparents lived. Now, the woods that she would walk and hike would get really creepy at times. I know that feeling. Kelly's grandparents always told her while she was out in the woods walking, and ever felt unsafe for some reason, to stop what she was doing and to come directly back home. There it is, guys, having that feeling and listening to your inner thoughts and inner words. Very important. They would never really explain why. A lot of the older people don't like to talk about it. I've found that out myself. So as she was walking in the woods, it was a bit past 4 p.m. She just was out there for 2 days with no problems, so she figured this would be another day in the woods without any problems. Not long into her walk, she started to get the feeling that she was being watched. She would look around, but didn't see anything, but also felt like she was in danger. So she kept walking for about another quarter of a mile through the snow-covered bushes and logs until she got to the old logging road, which this road was a quick way around the woods, and it connected to the road that Kelly's house and grandparents' houses were on. Already tired from the hike, she was going to make her way to the back. As she was making her way back home, she still could feel something was watching her. And she was walking, and she could hear something moving or see something moving out of the corner of her eye. She turned to look real quick, but when she looked, there was nothing, and she could swear there was something moving around. Now, you will catch movements out of your peripheral vision faster than you will out of looking straight at something. And Cassie was actually talking to me about this the other day, and I've noticed that is true. Heading back, she started to hear what sounded like chains rattling nearby. She was hearing chains. I thought that was pretty wild, pretty weird. She stopped, and when she stopped, the noise would stop. She would look around, but again, she couldn't see where the sound was coming from. So she just chalked it up to maybe there were chains hanging from a tree, just blowing in the wind, which would be making the rattling noise. Excuse me. That's another mistake a lot of us make, is we try to make excuses for what we're hearing, whenever we probably deep down know that it's not that. So just remember, next time you're out and you hear something, investigate a little more and try not to make excuses, but rather know what it is. I think it's safer to know than to assume. Uh, so a little further down the road as she was walking, she was already starting to get close to where her grandparents' house was. And just past there, where she lived, as she was walking, she started to hear the chain rattling again, and this time it sounded closer. She stopped walking again and thought maybe it's something that she was wearing causing that sound. She took a second look to see if anything on her was making that sound that she was wearing while she was walking. There was nothing on her that was making that sound. So she would cross back into the woods to make a straight shot to her grandparents' house. Again, another mistake. She went into the woods, but a lot of these things that are happening, you notice that these people that go missing, a lot of these people are running through the woods. I don't know if they're feeling safer in the woods because there's cover or what, but that is the worst place you could go. As far as what I have seen, is they hate openings and they hate open ground, but they love the woods. They'll climb up in those trees and just wait on you. Um, As she made the cut into the woods, she could hear what sounded like footsteps walking behind her, maybe about 10 feet or so. But what was strange is that the footsteps were in sync to Kelly's. And on top of that, she didn't really make any sense how something could be that close to her where there was no one in sight for a few seconds again. So it's walking with her so it don't hear her. We've heard of that happening a lot. So she acted as if she was going to take another step forward, but stopped, hovering her foot right above the snow. She heard her crunch in the snow behind her, then immediately she could hear what was over there, and it was moving closer to her. Kelly figured, oh crap, this thing figured out that I know it's behind me. She would start running as fast as she could toward her grandparents' land. Whatever was behind her was chasing her. It almost sounded like a human. The sounds of the chain started up again as it was chasing her. The thing was chasing her was only on 2 legs, and it sounded really big. And she was running. She was zigzagging all around these small trees and bushes and things behind her, was going right through them, the parts that she could, and busting through the small bushes because she knew something was chasing her. Then for the first time she was running, she looked behind her to see what was chasing her, and she could see what it was. It was really tall, it was gray, and it was humanoid looking, like a large bipedal wolfman. As she was making the final stretch to her grandparents' house, she could hear the heavy breathing of whatever was chasing her, along with the rattling of the chains. And that was strange, is that the whole time it stayed a few feet behind me the entire time they were running. But these chains, that's what's weird to me. And at that point, as she got closer to the house, it started to growl. She said she felt like it was going to attack her because it knew she was reaching the house. She could hear it growling. It was catching up to me a little bit more. I could almost feel its breath on my neck. I could hear the chains rattling even harder, and it sounded like even a chain hung on something for a second, and it sounded like it jerked it to the ground as I heard it exhale and slam the ground. I never looked back. I kept running. Kelly could hear the grandparents' dog barking like crazy, which their dog was a very big Malamute Mastiff mix. As she got up to the house, the dog didn't even run up to meet her like it always does. That's when she knew whatever was chasing her was freaking her dog out. As soon as Kelly got to the house, she ran inside along with the dog, slammed the door behind her, and the dog and her were shaking from whatever was outside. The dog was whining, shaking, and barking at the door. After Kelly realized she was safe inside, she started crying, and her grandfather came downstairs to see what was going on immediately. The grandfather had a good idea what had happened, and he told her, "Don't think about it. Just forget it ever happened." She then asked them what it could be. She refused to talk to them, acted very afraid. She asked her grandparents, "What was that? What is that?" And all they would tell her, "It's better that you don't know. It's better that you leave it alone. But now that it has your scent, now that it has seen you, now that it has chased you and you have outran it, it will always be after you in the woods. You're no longer allowed to go to the woods alone, and you're no longer allowed to be outside at dark at Grandma's house. You have to be cautious from now on." The more and more I asked them, the more and more they would ignore me, and that is all I found out to this point. If I hear any more, or find any more, or have any more encounters, I will be sure to contact your channel, as I watch daily. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my story with you. Kelly. So then again, guys, that's just a really good example of not being out alone. And don't cut through the woods if something gets after you. That's like number one thing. I mean, if you go into the woods, they may be more hiding above you. They may be in the trees. They may be anywhere. So don't go to the woods. Pretty scary. I know my mom, another granny story, she was out at the barn, like I was telling y'all. Something was in the grass. She could hear it breathing. When my mom was walking back to the house, she stayed in the brush hogged part that went to the barn like a path. It stayed in the tall weeds. Every time Mom would step, it would step. Mom got scared because she could hear it breathing, took off running, and she could hear it chasing her, and it chased her all the way to the end of the fence line. Sometimes they just chase you and they don't grab you, and sometimes they chase you and you don't come home. But I wouldn't be willing to take the chance either way. Have a good one, guys. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay warm. Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the next one.